Welcome to Born or Made, the podcast that dives deep into the heart of success and identity. Are the traits that define us as leaders ingrained from birth, or are they carved out throughout our experiences? Join your host, Anne-Marie LaTulip, as we ask these questions to some of the most insightful and inspiring entrepreneurs of our time. Each episode, we explore their journeys, the decisions that shaped them, and how they've molded their own paths to success. So whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur, a seasoned business owner, or simply curious about the interplay between nature and nurture in professional growth, you're in the right place. Get ready for compelling stories, transformative insights, and a new perspective on what it really takes to make it in the world of entrepreneurship.
Hello, and welcome back to the Born or Made podcast. I am your host, Anne-Marie LaTulip, and today I have a very, very special guest with me. I have the lovely Connie Anne. From a career in sales and the film industry to becoming a beacon of transformation, Connie Anne's journey is nothing short of inspiring. She is a dedicated personal and corporate coach, guiding individuals and teams to unlock their full potential by harnessing the power of the law of attraction. I love that. Having reached high five-figure income one short year after finding herself homeless, she gained profound fulfillment by embracing universal laws. Connie Anne now shares her insights and strategies with others, leading them to the path of success and satisfaction. Oh my goodness, how exciting does that sound? Hi, Connie.
Hi, Anne-Marie. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here with you guys today.
Yeah, this is great. And you know, your bio says it all, but let's talk real quick about the law of attraction. You remember that movie? I think when we first all started hearing about the law of attraction was when that movie The Secret came out. Do you remember that movie?
I absolutely do. And as a matter of fact, the book is what was pinnacle of shifting me from being homeless to that five figures that you mentioned. So
Wow.
absolutely, it's very near and dear to my heart.
That's incredible. Yeah, I remember when that came out because I unless I just was living under a rock, that sort of concept wasn't really talked about as much. And so it really just brought an awareness to, wait a second, we create what we attract, you know, or vice versa, whatever it is. But yeah, that's so exciting. So talk about you were homeless, right? Can you talk
Yes.
about that? How did that happen? What led you there?
Well, it was the journey into blaming everybody but myself. And we see that a lot even now if you're on social media and stuff and you're watching what other people are saying.
Yeah.
It it's all we're pointing everywhere else. But my mom always said, when you point one finger, three fingers are pointing back. And isn't that the truth? So I was blaming the outside world. It was my then husband who, in that process, that marriage ended. I was blaming him. I was blaming my mom. She was very unwell and she was very needy, and it was her fault. She was taking too much of my time, and my boss was a jerk, and it was completely the outside world. and
Yeah.
and knowing what I know now, I totally see how I imploded my life by my actions and not actually realizing that I was responsible for my life. And it was those three fingers that were pointing back that were way more important than the one pointing out. So, my marriage ended. I got divorced. I I ran away from something instead of running towards something, which
Oh,
is a small but significant piece of information that everybody needs to know. Never run away from something, always run towards something and make that something the thing that you actually want, that something better, that something more. So
yeah.
I was running away with no plan, so I had nowhere to go. I was couch surfing. I had some beautiful friends who lent me a couch from time to time, and spent some time in my car. I was lucky enough to have a vehicle that when I left the marriage that I was able to have, um, and I ended up on the a friend of mine who knew somebody had a storage room that she could clear an area off, and we put an air mattress down there. And so I stayed there through my deepest darkest moments of not even it hurt to breathe. Like just and I don't know why this time is so significant for me, but it was like 3:30 and I was just willing myself to get to 4. And for some reason that time of day just stuck in my brain. Like it was just that point of the lowest of the low. I was like, okay, if I can just get to 4 o'clock, I'll be all right. Okay, if I can
Wow.
just get to 4:15, right? And oh, woo-hoo, I made it to 4 o'clock. Like, let's just and not make it like I was going to take myself out.
Yeah.
That actually never crossed my mind, but it was just time was ticking so slow and just in like I was numb and I was just in a place where I felt nothing. I couldn't laugh, I couldn't cry, I couldn't form a thought. Um, and then I actually had, at one point, I actually had to get up off the floor literally, and I had to go pee. I mean, if I can be bold enough. And then I was like, well, while I'm up, I should maybe, grab a slice of bread and eat something while I'm here. And before I knew it, it was 8 o'clock. And I was like, oh, well, if I go to sleep now and maybe tomorrow will be better. And somebody actually in that process gifted me The Secret, the book. And you can't really see it, but the book's on the shelf right behind me right now, the very book that I was gifted. And so that was the turning point of the manifestation of this law of attraction. Ooh, what's this? And that's when I started really like, wow, okay. And then I started thinking, well, nobody's coming to save me. Woe was me. And I was kind of in my little living in my little pile of poo. And and but it shifted from and like the perspective of running towards something instead of running away from something, my perspective changed from nobody's coming to save me, I'm all alone, life sucks, to nobody's coming to save me, I better get off my ass and do something. Pardon my French.
Yeah.
I'm a small town girl, so sometimes I have a little potty mouth, Anne Marie, sorry.
That's okay.
But it shifted. Something in me shifted in that moment. I'm like, well, I wonder if I can manifest, because there's the story about the feather, the person who drew the specific feather and was kind of testing this law of attraction, and I did it with $100. And I was out and about, and I got out of my vehicle and I stepped on a pile of $20 bills, and there was like
What?
money all over the ground. And this was like probably about 3 days after I started thinking about, oh, I wonder if I could manifest just $100 would be nice. I'd like to go and buy myself some clothes and right have
Yeah.
and 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 have a nice meal. And yeah, and it was over $200. I was like, whoa, okay, what else can I do? And so I started feeling hopeful that it's not all destitute, and I can pull myself out of this. And now, what else can I manifest, and what else can I find? And I just kind of grew from there. So
That
that's
is
that.
amazing. That is amazing. I want to talk more about that, but I want to put a pin in it because I want to go back, go back to the beginning and what you said that your boss was a jerk. So what were you doing prior to this big shift and this big aha moment? What were you doing as in terms of a career?
I was, and this was maybe part of the demise of my first marriage. I was working at a motorsports company
Okay.
in Edmonton, Alberta, here in Canada, and I was saying my boss is a jerk now. I'm like, maybe I don't mention that. The but anyway, I don't believe that. I mean, this was quite a while ago now, so the situation's changed over there. But my husband was working there as well. He was in sales, and so we worked together.
Okay.
And
Okay.
and I think it's very hard to be working and living and being together 24/7. It's really tough, and I think that was really hard on my marriage.
Yeah, yeah. So, okay. So I ask you that because you weren't in an entrepreneurial role then prior to this big aha moment. So let's talk about the shift from the daily grind, I like to call it, or like I said before hit record, the time card punchers. And I mean no offense to some people, that structure is really, really important to some people, um, but not me, and
Yeah,
probably
not
not.
not everybody.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Mhm.
So talk about that shift from that type of a structure to now being your own boss, being an entrepreneur, having your own business and your own clients. Talk about that a little bit.
I actually want to pull you before that, just before I answer that. I
Yeah.
actually, in my 20s, I owned a brick and mortar diet company when I was in my 20s. And I
Huh?
was really close to earning my first car in Mary Kay. I was a Mary Kay rep for 5
Oh, no
years. So
kidding.
I
Okay.
did have a little bit of a journey prior to that cratering. So one of the laws of the universe, or the laws of the world, is a law of ebb and flow. So I was definitely in an ebb. I hit a big ebb. Um, but definitely my journey to where I am now from being homeless was me having to realize what I've been doing, and I was never really ever at a place where I could say I made it, I've done this. I never really knew the journey I was really meant to be on here. And I think
Yeah.
in losing myself in in my marriage and trying to be everything that I thought everybody else wanted me to be, I lost me. And one other thing that happened when I was going through divorce, my mom had passed away as well. So that was like
Uh,
another layer of depth of the darkness that I was in. So repairing and healing all of that, and but the the two biggest things that I was trying to be not myself in, with my mom and in that marriage and that whole situation, both of those went away. It's like I had to go into that darkness. Those two pinnacle parts of my life had to diminish and go away
yep.
for me to become fully who I am. And I am not saying that my mom's death was a good thing. It never is. And I talk to a lot of people all the time, and their parents are sick and ill and like right in this moment going through things.
Yeah.
So um it's never a good thing when that happens. But now, um 15 years later, after my mom's now passed away, that's how long ago this happened. I can see how inauthentic I was. I was always trying to live up to her expectation of who I
Mm.
thought she thought I needed to be.
That's so
And now
interesting.
I didn't have anybody to live up to anymore. I didn't
Yeah.
have anybody I had to pretend to be strong and powerful or something other than myself, and I could actually, nobody was here telling me you can't do that. Are you sure you want to do that? Oh, don't self-sabotage yourself. I was like, damn it, I'm just going to get out there and I'm just going to be the me that I'm supposed to be. So those two situations freed me up in
Wow.
hindsight.
Yeah.
I don't want that to sound weird and creepy,
No, it
around.
doesn't. It
But
makes total sense. It's like shedding you shed it. You shed the skin kind of. And
yeah, yeah,
it's so fascinating to me that when you say don't ever run away from something, run towards something.
yeah.
Because sometimes we don't realize we're running away, you know? And so I want to ask you, how did you know what you were running towards, or did you not in that moment when you read The Secret? Did you just you knew you were running towards something better, but did you know what that something better was at that moment?
Um, I did not. I just wanted to have my own place, have my own apartment. I wanted to not be
Yeah.
on an air mattress on the floor. I knew I had to, and at that point we were separated, not divorced. So, do I go back? And we tried to get back, and that's a different conversation for another
Yeah.
day. And so I know I had to finalize one way or the other with my marriage, and uh, I I didn't know where I was going, like to where I am today. If somebody had told Connie 15 years ago, this is where you're going to end up, I'd have been, really? Are you sure? Me?
Yeah.
Because I'm a hairdresser by trade. I'm an artist. I'm artistic. I love getting my hands dirty, and if I had a backyard, I'd be out there in the mud in my bare feet. Right, with mud oozing between my toes. That's who I am in the heart of who I am. I'm a small town girl. So
Yeah.
I didn't I just knew that I didn't want what I had, but also realizing I need to run towards something. So what am I going to run towards? So I set a money amount, a monetary amount
Okay.
of what I will need to create a better life for me, for myself. and um, and I was complaining to a friend of mine that, like, oh, I'm divorced, and this and that, and I'm not blaming the outside world, but looking at my current circumstance and kind of feeling a little bit sorry for myself in that moment when I was with that friend. And she's like, "You have a do-over. You have a car and nothing else." Because I'm like, I don't have a job and I don't have a husband and I don't. And she's like, "You can go anywhere in the world right now and start over. Where are you going to go? What are you going to do?" I was like,
I love
"Oh,
that.
again, that it's all about the perspective shift. The
Yeah.
perspective shift." And because I really loved the book The Secret, and then the movie came out, so I had the movie and I was watching the movie, and yes, I still have it on DVD as well.
So do I.
But I started right. I
I
was
think
so
I've watched
good.
it like 50 times.
Yeah, easy, easy. Almost as many times as as I've watched Grease. Um, but all of the people in the movie and all of the people in the book, I started kind of looking at and studying them. And one person I really gravitated towards was Bob Proctor. Um,
Yes.
and he talks in very basic form. Like, he explains the law of attraction, and that the law of attraction is actually a secondary law. The parent law is the law of vibrational frequency. And that's how we scientifically, mathematically, physically attract things into our life. And I found that fascinating. Um,
That
and so
is.
I started digging in and talking to people, and people were trying things and they were getting results. They're like, "Oh, that did work. That was really cool." and and so talking to people about, so I kind of fell into this, but now knowing what I know, I was trusting my intuition, and I was guiding my life. I was not just a leaf adrift on the breeze in my life, which so many people are. They just get up in the morning and they put on their socks and shoes and brush their hair and do what they did yesterday.
Yeah.
I was methodically trying to go better and better every day, doing something different than I've done before. And a counselor ended up seeing, she said, "Do one thing every day that scares you, that freaks you out, that makes you feel really, really uncomfortable." And Bob Proctor, in kind of in that journey, in that part of my journey too, said, "Get uncomfortable and stay there. If you are
Yeah.
not uncomfortable, you better find something that makes you uncomfortable." So I kind of took those two as, okay, let's do that. So I'm a really big advocate, Anne Marie, for threes. If I hear something three times, it's my message. It's for me. I'm meant to pay attention to it. Sometimes
Okay.
it only needs to be once if it's a really big fish I'm being smacked upside the head with. But but the rule of threes. So I started really paying attention to all of those signs, and that's what got me to here. I actually ended up really following Bob Proctor, of all the people in The Secret, and
Okay.
I ended up actually enrolling and becoming um, a coach, a certified coach through his Proctor Gallagher Institute, and Bob Proctor himself, and
Can
his
you talk about Bob
his
Proctor for anyone listening that might not be familiar with who he is? Can you tell us a little bit about him and what he does?
Sure. Bob Proctor said he always described himself as the man in the tan suit in the movie The Secret. So, so I'll start there.
Okay.
Bob Proctor was he's kind of been touted as the grandfather of the self-help movement. He he's from Canada, and maybe that's a reason why I was gravitating to him. And he um he studied under Earl Nightingale.
Okay.
Earl Nightingale was mentored by Napoleon Hill.
Yep.
So anybody that knows Think and Grow Rich. So Earl Nightingale was he actually made the first talking record, as far as we know. So he took the principles of Think and Grow Rich and put them on vinyl,
Okay.
on a
Okay.
on an actual record.
A
And
record.
so Earl Nightingale is, as far as we know, did the very first self-help um, piece of audio that people could purchase and take to their home and listen to.
Wow.
So
Okay.
Bob Proctor recognized Earl Nightingale, and Earl Nightingale had a course then that he put together called Lead the Field, that Bob became a salesperson for, and he moved to Chicago, like, for free, to work for. He kind of walked into Earl Nightingale's office and said, I'm gonna work for you. And they're like, oh, so how much do you think we're gonna pay you for this job that you think you're gonna get? And so that was, but Bob Proctor also was broke. He talked about that he worked in a fire hall and he made $4,000 a year, which was a lot back in the day. He made
Yeah, sure.
$4,000 a year and he owed $6,000. So he was really, but through listening to Earl Nightingale's record and like over and over and over again, he changed, like how I changed. And he's like, oh, what happened? How did I do that? And he'd be giving other people this book who were also destitute or this album, and but their life wasn't changing because they'd listened to it to once and put it away. But it
Yeah,
became the repetition. And how do you change a paradigm? You have over and over and over, like your guitar behind you. If you don't sit there and go A C A C A C over and
yeah.
over, right? Like day after day, you're never gonna be able to do it.
Learn,
And
right? Yeah.
learn. So Bob Proctor took what he learned from Earl Nightingale, who learned from Napoleon Hill, and he spent his entire life studying people, studying the mind, studying the law of attraction, studying our higher faculties, so our memory, will, intuition, perception, reason, and how that all comes together in order for us to be, do, or have anything we want to do, be, or have in our life. And he put together courses and programs, and he traveled all over North America and beyond, teaching these things and just changing lives everywhere. And one of his more notable students was Tony Robbins, actually, was coached by Bob Proctor as well.
Really?
A lot of people don't know that.
I didn't know that.
Um,
Wow.
yeah, so he's really like, and all of the studying over this last decade that I've done of Bob Proctor and just and all things. I mean, Wayne Dyer and
Hmm.
Eckhart Tolle and yes, Earl Nightingale and Napoleon Hill as well, and myself and my clients and my students over the years. And when I look at Tony Robbins, it's all the same. There's nothing new under the sun. Gravity has always been gravity. The law of attraction is always the law of attraction, but people are just going to explain it differently. People are going to tell you different things to do. Gravity, you could teach somebody how to use it to bounce a ball, or you could teach people how to use it. That's what happens when you get on a scale. When for those of us that are
Yeah.
in a constant state of weight loss, it's like we use gravity in different ways. So people explain the law of attraction in different ways, but nothing's new under the sun with the laws of physics and the laws of
It's so
having an
fascinating.
incredible life.
It's so fascinating. It really, really is. Yeah, but I want to. Do you mind if we go back for a second because I want to
Of
know?
course. I know. There's a lot.
Yeah, yeah, because what
I'm
I'm
giving you a
curious,
lot to unpack.
what I'm curious about is like, how did you go from homeless to five figures? I mean, what you said that you found that $200. Okay, so like, what happened next? How did you pull yourself out of that without having a house, without having any resources at that time? That journey from homeless to five figures.
Well, as I started taking responsibility,
Yeah,
right?
right.
And obviously there was a point, there's, I mean, day by day it was a slow progression, but I did end up going to the house I lived in with my ex-husband and retrieving some of my stuff, and some of my stuff was my painting stuff,
Yeah.
my paints for painting. And so I started painting my feelings and painting and
Okay.
just
Okay.
and part of me remembered who I am. Like as a child, I used to, whenever I was sad or mad or happy or any feeling anything, I would paint.
I love
I
that.
would paint. And so I started just blobbing paint on, and I started taking some I always was fascinated with sign language. And when I was working at that motorcycle shop, there was a gentleman there who was deaf, who was a mechanic. And so and it was fun, kind of. I knew a little bit of sign language from like when I was a girl guide when I was a young girl. So I started taking sign language classes. I enrolled in like um I had a part-time job, because I was
Okay.
feeling better about myself,
That
more
was my
confident. So I
question.
went out and got a
Yeah.
part-time job, and and a
Okay.
full-time job and taking courses. And I just started energetically healing and figuring out who I am. I started walking taller. One friend of mine even said, "I have never heard you laugh like that before." When we were talking and I laughed, she's like, "Where'd that laugh? That is an amazing laugh. I've never heard that." And I'd known her for like 6 years.
Yeah,
So
that's
everything just
funny.
kind of changed. Yeah. So part-time job, full-time job. Then in that whole journey, then things turned around. I did eventually end up, of course, getting a settlement from the divorce.
Okay. Yeah.
So of course that did happen also, but and in all honesty, my ex-husband, if he watches us or anybody that knew us going through that, he's a wonderful, wonderful man. Um, it didn't work for us, and we
Yeah.
tried to make it work again, and so I don't want any bad energy to come back
Yeah. No,
on him, because I have nothing but good words to say about him.
that's awesome.
So in the settlement of the divorce, which, and then of course that takes time, right?
Yeah.
Like here in Canada, you have to be apart for a certain, like for a year before they'll even consider granting you a divorce. So in
Oh,
that
no
time,
kidding.
that's where I was like, okay, I
Yeah.
just I just kind of imploded my life, and so I did have to pick myself up in the meantime.
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
Okay.
I just started getting work and getting more confidence and getting out there, and just seeing what.
And so
Okay, Connie, let's go. What can you do? Let's see.
what was it that made you realize your calling to help other people uh I'm assuming you help people increase their vibration, their frequencies, or learn the law of attraction. That's what you help people with, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So what was
yeah.
it that told you, "Hey, Connie, this is you're supposed to help other people with this"?
Well, because it helped me. And as I was
Yeah.
talking to people and telling people this story that I've shared with you here, um, they're like, "Wow, well, how did you do that? What did you do?" And of course, studying with Bob Proctor, I just we and for me, my paycheck from my clients is a paycheck of the heart. Like if you wanted to do something, Anne Marie, and I told you to do something and you went and you did it and it happened and you're like, "Oh my God, it happened!" Like for me, I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah, I
yay,
know.
good for you." And I'm cheering you on. I'm so happy for you, because I know what it's like to be in that pit of despair and feel completely and absolutely hopeless, lost, and like, "Oh my God, I'm 35 and life is over." Right? But
Yeah.
so to for me to help somebody else have that. And I also, because of Bob Proctor, his teachings, his lessons, um, I just I knew what it did for me. And I want to do that for every single person. I want everybody to have the understanding and knowledge that I have, that yes, whatever you're going after, you can do, be, or have it. You can have it if it's in your heart and you really want it and you're willing to do what it takes to get there. You will get there. And so many people don't know that.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to know that.
Isn't that an
You
incredible thing?
absolutely can do it.
Yeah.
And like, so why would I keep that to myself? I
That's
can't.
awesome.
I
That's
can't.
awesome. That's like it's truly a calling. It's that's so powerful too. Could you explain for people listening, because actually I've had others on this show that mention frequency and energy and vibrations and things. It's kind of a hard concept to wrap your head around for some people. So can you try to explain what you mean by that, by a higher vibration, a higher frequency, and just operating at that level?
Oh, it's actually not that hard to explain for me, so
Oh,
I can
good.
go
Okay.
ahead and do
Well,
that for
please.
you. So imagine your radio on your car, right? You turn the dial, you turn it to, there's a reason why your radio station has different numbers, right?
Yeah.
96.3, 102.4. Those are frequencies. Megahertz, it's a frequency. So when you tune the dial of the radio into that station, it attracts that station. It's a vibrational frequency coming through the air. Right now, right here, there's music in the air. There are voices in the air right now, but we're not tuned into that frequency. That's why we need a radio, a transistor, to receive at a particular frequency, and then we attract that type of music that we know is on that frequency.
Okay.
It's all science. It's all physics.
I have never heard it explained so clearly like that. That is a beautiful explanation.
Everything is on a frequency. It's not just music. It's everything. And we humans think we're above natural laws, natural things. We're not. Everything is in a rate of vibrational frequency. My mouse, if you put it under a microscope, a strong enough one, the little molecules in it, right? We've all seen this in science in school. The little molecules have space and they're vibrating. They're vibrating. Vibration is a frequency. If it's vibrating faster or slower, it's sending off a frequency. And it changes as you change the frequency. So here's another really good example. Water. Yeah. Water freezes. The molecules slow down, right? They become a solid. They freeze at a certain temperature.
Right.
So then you heat it up and you get it moving a little bit. And now it's water. And you get it moving a little bit more and it's boiling. Because you're adding heat to it. You're raising the vibrational frequency of the molecules of the water, and now you're boiling, and now it turns to steam. But the steam doesn't stay steam in the whole room. Well, it can if you get enough of it, that it stays steamy, but the steam goes up and it just
dissipates. Yeah.
Dissipates. But it's still there. The oxygen and the hydrogen is still there. It's just in a different form.
Fascinating. Oh my goodness. That's so fascinating.
That's frequency. So when it comes to what we're talking about here, and I haven't invented none of this. I've studied, I have learned every morning before I get out of bed. My husband gets out, my now husband, my second husband, my last husband, gets out of bed and makes coffee. I sit in bed and I have my first cup of coffee and I write out my goals and what I want to do for the day and how amazing the day is going to be. And I script it out and I do. And we actually, we're going through Bob Proctor's book, Born Rich. We read it like back and forth every morning. He'll read he'll read a page, I'll read a page, and then we'll sit and we'll talk about it for a few minutes. And that's how we start every day. I still do that now.
I love that.
I want to be in a high rate of vibration before I even get out of bed. I want to be firing off.
That's
such in a good mood. If I get out of bed in a bad mood in the morning, my day is done. I might as well just stay in bed.
Yeah. So true. And I'm glad you said that because I was going to ask you if somebody wanted to try to increase their vibration, what might they try to do? And you answered my question kind of, but if you could give some other examples.
People aren't going to do what I just said. I mean, let's be honest. Everybody knows about affirmations. Everybody hears about writing out affirmations every morning. But do they do it? No. I have, Anne-Marie, I have people all the time coming to my seminars and my webinars, whether they're paid or not, and do they do the work? Very few people. So I used to do 5-day workshops for free. And so you can find them on YouTube. Everybody go to Connie Anne, DOTCOM on YouTube, and you can watch my 5-day workshops there. There's 2 of them that are uploaded.
Yeah.
Because I would do them and come to them, and I had the same people coming to them every month after month, year after year, the same people. They're not doing the work. So if you are absolutely determined, and this is where I said you have to be willing to do the work, right?
Yeah, there's no quick fix.
And if you've ever heard somebody say, what price are you willing to pay? And it's not always money. Yes, if you want somebody to hold your feet to the fire, you have to hire a coach. You can't keep going to free stuff.
Yeah.
You have to hire a coach. One of my clients today, I put this funny thing on social media, and it was like a doll of me. And she said, is there a string on the back of it that when you pull it, it yells at you for being a slacker? I don't yell at my clients, but it was kind of funny. But that's what people need. We need to have somebody to hold our feet to the fire and make us do the things. Because at the slightest bit of discomfort, people stop. Or they'll do it for a week and they'll stop. And They'll do it every day. So everybody watching this, every morning, take out a pen and paper and say, I'm so happy and grateful now that money comes to me in increasing quantities from multiple sources on a continuous basis. So yeah, you might have to rewind this and slow play that.
Yeah.
And that's from Bob Proctor. That was one of the first things Bob Proctor told me, is write that sentence out 50 times in the morning. And if you really want to set your life on fire, do it 50 times at night. Now, the first time I tell people that, Anne-Marie, so if I told you to do that, maybe I'll test you. What would you say if I told you to do it 50 times in the morning and 50 times at night?
I'd say that'll take too long. I'm too busy. Did I get it right?
Boom, there. Oh, to where you want to go. Or maybe you don't have a very good goal. Maybe you don't know where you're going, right? So the first thing is really like you got to have that strong goal. But that's great. I'm glad you said that. You just fell perfectly into my little trap. So, but we have to be willing to do, okay, well, can you do 10 in the morning and 10 at night?
Yeah.
Could you have a pad of paper on a counter or a desk somewhere, and every time you walk by it, you make yourself stop and write that sentence out once? Because I have a spot in my house that I walk by probably about 500 times a day when I'm coming into my office and out of my office and to the kitchen and to the laundry room or whatever. So if I stopped and wrote down every time I went by it, I'd probably write it out 300 times a day. So you can do it, but instantly we go to why this isn't going to work, why I can't do this. Oh, I know somebody that did that.
Yeah,
that didn't work for them,
it's not going to work for me. Yeah.
Okay. All right then. Been nice talking to you. Bye. but that's really what really honestly people need to do is to do that. But even more basic, what we can do, because we are in control of our own life. Where a person is today is a direct relation to the stuff they did in the past.
Mm-hmm.
For example, I am now wearing a black shirt. Why am I wearing a black shirt? Because I put one on earlier.
Yep.
I created this circumstance, right?
Right. Yeah.
I didn't want to wear a black shirt. Why did I put one on, right? So if you don't like the life you're living right now, if you're not happy with the results you're getting in your life right now, don't do the same thing you did yesterday. Because what you did yesterday got you this result. If this result sucks, why would you do the same thing again?
Makes total sense.
Why would you do that? So do something different today. Do something that freaks you out. Do something that scares you.
Yep.
Do something that you know that if you did it, your life would be amazing. So
that's great advice. And it's like that old saying,
scare yourself.
Yeah, it's like that how do you define insanity, I think is what they say, by doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If you have pizza every single night for supper and you're sick of eating pizza, you don't want spaghetti, but you cooked pizza again and you're sitting there eating the pizza going, God, I hate pizza. And then tomorrow you sit down and you make pizza again and you're like, why am I still eating pizza? Well, because you're not making spaghetti. You're making pizza. Stop making pizza.
I love that. Stop making pizza. Damn it.
Stop it.
I love it.
But that's the insanity. I want spaghetti, but you keep making pizza. Why are you making pizza?
Yeah. It's so true though. I mean, it's so true. And I think
everybody lives their life like that. They are running towards nothing and just waiting for the day that they fall into a hole in the ground and somebody shovels dirt on them. I mean, it's sad, but it's true.
Yeah.
Like, someday when. No,
and I think
moment is the only moment we have.
Yeah. And I think what's even sadder though is that a lot of people don't even realize it. They don't realize how drastically their lives could change, right? Yeah. Maybe they think this is all too foo-foo or whatever they might think. What they say, woo, the land of woo. That's what it is, not foo.
That saying drives me crazy, I gotta say.
Yeah.
Well, so it's taking this incredible, powerful information that will, if used correctly, change your life in a massive, beautiful, incredible way. It is like gravity, Anne-Marie. If you don't believe in gravity, if you think gravity's woo and you go to the top of a tall building and you step off of it, gravity's going to do what it does.
Yep.
The universal laws of how to live your life properly in the right way, you can discard them, you can ignore them, but you cannot alter them. And
Yeah.
again, quoting Bob Proctor. So the law of attraction is working for you. If your life sucks, it's because you keep saying your life sucks and you keep thinking about being broke and you keep engaging in negative conversations and saying things like, I tried, it doesn't work. I always struggle with this. I'm done doing this. I don't like this. If you are focusing on what you don't like, you are tapped into the frequency of that thing and you are attracting it to it. If you don't like to listen to country music, you have to turn the dial to a different frequency and get onto the rock and roll station. If you don't like your life, stop tapping into the stuff you don't like. Start tapping into the stuff you do like. And know that the universal law will bring you that thing. And you don't have to be in it all the time. Only 51% of your life. You can still
Wow.
slip up and have a negative conversation and
Yeah.
say something, negative about your results from time to time. But for example, if I can go back to that thing that happened in 2020, that event that shall not be named.
Yes.
So many people were messaging me and calling me and saying, I'm going to lose my house. I don't know what I'm going to do, da, 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 da. And, and I stayed in touch with them. A lot of them were my followers and past clients, and
Mhm.
not a single one lost their home. They all found a way. But all that stress and worry and anxiety about losing their home and not having enough money for food, and I'm sure things were dire, but they didn't lose their home.
Right.
They're all still here. We made it to the other side. And so why don't we focus on, I always have enough money at the end of the month? Why don't we focus on, I always end up with enough money, right? Because if you think about for how many months, for how many weeks, for how many years, every month do you worry about, am I going to pay my rent? And you always have. Stop doing that.
Yeah.
Start thinking about, at the end of every month, I have an extra $5,000 in the bank.
That's awesome.
We can, and then, so going back to Napoleon Hill, it takes no more effort to accept abundance than it does to accept misery and poverty. It takes no more effort to have a good thought than a bad thought. So have good thoughts. What are you running towards? Not what are you running away from? And all of that comes together in I kind of feel like we kind of came full circle. But it's all tied together.
Yep. And is
And
this what, oh, go ahead, finish.
no, you ask.
I was just going to say, is this, I want to bring up your book. Is this what your book is about?
My book. Oh, yes. my book is well yes. I did I had a Facebook group, a VIP Facebook group, where people paid $50 a month to belong.
Okay.
And every week, I did every week a training, a 30 to 45-minute training for everybody in the group. And so they were the only ones that got the recording of it and so on. And so so I ran it for a year. That was kind of the time allotment for it in the universe, in my
Yeah.
world, apparently. So so when I closed it down, I had all of these 30 and 40-minute trainings. And so I actually, the origins of how the book came to be is I took those trainings, and my assistant and I took out the 15 best of them, and I made an online self-study course for
Okay.
people, because not everybody can afford a coach. And
Right.
group coaching has its place, but to really dig into what habits you specifically have and your specific problems, you need specific help.
Yep.
So I mostly coach one-on-one.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
also people get on a call with me. It's like, oh, don't you have, like, I want to learn from you. And some people will even, like, they'll be sad when I tell them the cost of working with me. They're like in tears. They're like, but I just know that you have what I need. So we took those 15 and we made it into a self-study course.
Okay.
So people that can't afford a coach can have this course. So then through the course, I was thinking it would be great to have a book that accompanied the course, but also because some people, so my course online is $947. So, and God bless you, whoever you are out there. Sometimes that's a lot of money too for some people.
Hmm.
So I was like, what if I take this and I put it in a book? So,
I love it.
so I
Okay.
took, so the course is 15 modules. The book is 16 chapters because the 16th chapter is kind of just a wrap up chapter of the book. So the
Yeah.
course kind of got put into a book. So the book is complementary to the course, but also they both stand alone by themselves. So
Okay.
that's
Okay.
how, that's kind of the incarnation of it. So it talks about goals, it talks about levels of awareness, it talks about the law of attraction and about your goal. How do you become persistent? How do you stop procrastinating? How do you become confident? And and really the one thing to go back to, what can people do every day? You got to have a goal.
Yeah.
Financial happiness, enough money to pay the rent, those aren't goals. A goal is something you're going after that you have no idea if you're ever going to get there. So the goal is
Specific.
the goal that when you tell your friends your goal, you're worried they're going to laugh at you.
Yeah.
That's a goal. That is a goal that you keep in secret. And I have so many of my clients, I am the only person that knows their goal because I will not laugh. I have a client, her goal in her life is to literally go to the moon in her lifetime. She wants to go to the moon. And she's like, you're going to laugh. And I'm like, try me. I will not laugh at anybody's goal. I would not
So
laugh at your dream.
yeah, it's
Like,
not
that's
necessarily,
wrong. But you must have one.
yeah. And it's not necessarily doesn't have to be a financial goal, right? I mean, obviously you
It's
said you're
never, it's never a financial goal, Anne Marie. It's
no.
what you're. So if you say you want $1 million a year, because that's kind of the thing everybody says, how much do you want? Oh, $1 million a year. Okay, so you don't want the million. Nobody wants $1 million in their bank. They want the lifestyle they think that $1 million is going to give them. So what are you going to do with that? Where are you going to live? What car are you going to
Yeah.
drive? How are you going to walk, talk, act, and all of what are you going to do with that money? That's actually your goal. Is I want a house in the mountains, or I want to live by the sea, or I want to live on a yacht in
Yeah.
the Mediterranean. That's
Okay.
actually the goal. The money gets you there.
Yeah, the
The
money
goal
is just a
is that,
vehicle.
yeah, money's
Okay.
just numbers in a bank account. That's not fun.
That makes total sense. I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
All right. So we're kind of getting toward the end here, but I want to just talk about real quick. The name of the show is called Born or Made and asks the question, are we as entrepreneurs born with that, like they say, 1% crazy mindset? Or is it something that you think can be nurtured over time? But you had an entrepreneurial bug when you were younger. You said that you had your own shop. So I'm going to go ahead and say, I think you were probably born with an entrepreneurial spirit. But what do you think?
Um, I don't know that we're literally born. Like, do we come out of the womb that way? I do know that most of what we know, we humans, we learn is in our first 5 to 7 years of our life. So I think it's the world we're immersed in. My mom and dad were always business owners,
Oh,
as far
interesting.
as I know. I know maybe like in my early years, my dad was working for, he was driving truck for some companies and like doing dispatch and trucking and stuff. And but eventually he bought his own warehouse, and he as long as I remember, he owned a warehouse and he offloaded train cars and put them on trucks to distribute out. And so he's always been a business owner. My mom's always helped him. She always did the books, and
Yep.
she taught us, like at month end we would do the books with her. And so that allowed her to be at home with us and for her to help him. And so I kind of always got immersed in, having having bank ledgers on the tables and reconciling bank statements. And so
Yeah.
I was born into it. I
Okay.
don't think I was born with it, but I was definitely born into it. And if you look at people, so many people live the lifestyle their parents had, right? And by paradigm, by habit, and by belief. And so, but even for people that don't have that, so this was my life. I am the only entrepreneur in my family. My brother and sisters are not. They all have, well, my one sister, she's a nurse practitioner. My other sister works for the government of Alberta, but they're not entrepreneurs. So
Okay.
so why me?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think because I'm the middle child. So my younger brother and sister are twins, and I have an older sister, so I'm the middle child. So I'm the
Okay.
rebel. So
Yeah.
that's the only
Yeah.
thing that I can think of. I think whenever my mom said go put on nylons, I would definitely not do it. She should have told me to not wear nylons, and then I'd have probably gone and
Right.
put them on. um,
Reverse psychology. Yeah.
exactly. That's really, who I was, and probably who I still am. It's like, oh, you told me I can't do that. Watch me, right? So the thing though is anybody can do anything. So we all, every single human, I mentioned the higher faculties, we all have an intuition. We all have imagination. We all have perception, reason, will, memory. We all have all of that. They're mental muscles, and most people's mental muscles are weak. I was talking to a gentleman yesterday, and I couldn't get him to imagine anything. I'm like, just think about if you're going to have pizza for supper tonight. Can you close your eyes and think about a pepperoni pizza? And like his imagination wouldn't even let him do that.
Really?
So how can you imagine a better, brighter future for yourself if your imagination's asleep? So we need to wake up those mental muscles. When all of those mental muscles are woken up, then
Yeah.
you can imagine a better life, and you can think your way through things, and you can reason that if I keep talking negative about my boss, I'm eventually going to get fired.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Yeah.
reasoning, like you and I here talking about it, well, that makes sense. Right? What goes around comes around is a real thing. So let's
Yep.
talk about having an abundance of money left at the end of the month. But so anybody, no matter where they are, somebody who is, I can go to the end of the line because I've been there. Somebody who is homeless
Yeah.
can think their way to abundance if they're willing to do the work. So a
Yes.
phrase that I hear all the time is yeah, but.
Yeah.
It's
But
actually YABUT, yeah,
yeah.
but. And I'll say, so write 50 times every morning. I'm so happy and grateful now that I have extra money left at the end of the month. And you're like, yeah, but that takes too much time.
Yeah. Well,
Okay, then write it out 20 times a day. Yeah, well, could I just write it out 40 in the morning then and don't write it out at night? And like then the yeah, but. Yeah, but what about my kids? Yeah, but what if I don't have a pen? I'm like, I don't care. Take a crayon and write it on a mirror. Just do it. Right? No, you can't put it on your phone or your computer. No, you can't just think about it over and over, which is not bad to put it in a recording and hear yourself saying it over and over again too. That's a good thing you can do. Pen on paper, writing out the words is always the best thing to do. Well, yeah, but this and yeah, but that and
yeah.
okay.
It's
So we have to be willing to do the things. So what you want and why you want it is so important. The how doesn't matter, but you can get there. You can do it. Anybody can. So are people born entrepreneurs? I'm sure some are born into it like I was. That doesn't mean that if your parents are on social assistance and your grandparents are on social assistance, you don't have to be.
yeah.
You can break the mold. It can stop right here, right now, today with you.
Love
So
that.
your children, that they can be abundant and wealthy by
Yep.
example.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Okay, so do you have anything big on the horizon? Anything coming up? Any workshops or anything like that that people can look forward to?
I am actually doing something a little bit different and fun right now. I am actually taking on 10 people a week at a time who want to learn to confidently go live on social media, to hit the live button on their
Oh,
camera.
I love that.
It's something fun and quirky that I'm doing, but so many people are so scared to go live, and even if they don't need to do it for their business, but it helps them. One lady wants to do podcasts, and she's great talking, but as soon as the record button hits, she freezes up, and so in in 2 hours and it's me that does it. I don't pass people off to another coach. It's me.
Yeah.
2 hours together, they will know what to do and how to do it. And then for the next 7 days, I monitor them in a private Facebook group. And we go through daily activities and exercises for 7 days. And at the end of the 7 days, they're off to the races. And the lady that was scared of the podcast and the last one I did had 2 podcasts booked by the end of that week.
Awesome.
So so every week I'm doing a different one. So at the time of this recording, which is April 10th, 2025, just in case you're in the far future watching this, I may or may not be doing it. But honestly, anybody watching this at any time, if they have a couple of friends and they want to do it together, I would do it for whoever wants to do it.
That's awesome. Okay. And
And,
so you have a
and it's
link.
by donation. I don't charge a fee for it. I give people a link, and you can pay whatever
Okay.
it's worth for you to do it. So,
I love that.
so I want to make it accessible to everybody.
Yeah, that's great. And so, okay, so you'll get me the link. So I'll put that link in the show notes. I'll make sure to do that. And if people want to get in touch with you regarding coaching, they can just go to your website, connieanne.com. Is that correct?
That's right. Or they can email me. My email is connieanne@connieanne.com. So
That's easy to remember.
I got the connieanne.com thing all sewn up.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. So at the end of every interview, I always ask a couple of just random questions just to kind of get to know you a little bit better. So, you ready?
Bring it on. Let's go.
Do you believe in Bigfoot?
Wow, that's an awesome question. I don't have any evidence that Bigfoot does not exist. I'm always hopeful.
Yeah. See, I love how you said you don't have any evidence that it doesn't exist. There's no proof. That's a completely different. Yeah.
There's no proof that it doesn't exist.
That it doesn't exist. Yeah. I love that.
I'm always hopeful. I'm always hopeful. I would love to know that we don't know everything about everything yet.
Yeah. That's cool. Okay. Next question. If you had the opportunity to go to dinner with any one person, who would it be? Alive or dead?
You're gonna make me cry. Look up. Somebody said, look up. I'd love to go for supper with my mom one more time.
Oh, I love that.
Tell her she was right, because I used to make so much fun of her when she talked to me about, the three fingers pointing back, and
Yeah.
before I became who I am today, so I could tell her,
Well, she
right.
knows. She
Yeah.
knows. That's
Yeah.
awesome. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make you
Sorry,
cry.
Dad. My dad passed away too. Sorry, Dad. No, it's Mom. I had some time with my dad before he left. I said all I had to say to him.
Yeah.
All I wanted to say, so I didn't have that with my mom.
Oh. Well, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to make you cry. But that's an awesome answer. I love that answer.
Okay. That was great. Thank you. Thank you. I felt
Yeah.
the love.
Yeah. All right, Connie. Well, it was so awesome to have you on today and talk to you about your journey. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Awesome. Thanks everybody for watching, and I will see you next time on the Born or Made podcast.